Relevant and functional education, as the name implies, is the education that is relevant is education that aligns to the needs of the community and that aligns to global needs as well. Take for instance, in Nigeria or African countries, there are needs for people to break poverty genes. If education does not align to that need, then that education is not relevant. An average parent that takes a child to school in Africa is saying that tomorrow this child will become someone in life, is going to break the poverty genes, is going to come to the family, is going to even train up his younger ones and all of that. That is the mentality of an average African parent, and that is the societal need, the local needs in Africa. If our education cannot produce graduates who will meet those yearnings and those needs, then we say that education is not relevant. Now, functional education is almost the same thing. Functional education is the education that makes the products to be able to use the skills that they got from that education to become better, where the skills are transferable in the society. That is functional education. So we now say that an education system is dysfunctional if at the end of the day it cannot generate skills that are transferable and relatable to development of the society. So in a nutshell, that is what functional and relevant education means. The aligning of education to the needs of the society locally and globally, and ability to produce skills that are transferable, that are relatable, and are productive. That is relevant and functional education. You know, it all started some years ago after we have finished the first campaign. The first campaign is to Raising the Standard of Education campaign, RAFEC, and it was a very thorough campaign that took us to almost all the nooks and crannies of the entire country then. So we trained 20,000 classroom teachers, we trained over 10,000 school administrators, and we sat down to review what we have done and what is next to be done. Now we saw a huge gap, the gap between Nigerian educational system in particular, that is representative of African educational system, and the educational systems of advanced nations of the world. So we embarked on this comparative education tour, which took us to different countries and continents of the world outside Africa. What we were doing then was to go to understudy American educational system, British educational system. Specifically, we understudied the Australian educational system and Arab educational system. When we came back, we discovered that Finland has the best educational system in the world. So we switched to Finland and we started going to Finland. Within 9 months, we went to Finland about 3 times, understudied the primary school, the secondary school, the tertiary institution. We specifically went to University of Oulu in Finland. And after all of this, we came back to Africa and we sat down. What are the discoveries we made from this intensive and extensive tour? This tour I'm talking about took us up to 6 to 7 years to complete. And we took many school administrators from Nigeria, many school owners and educators from Africa on all the tours. I mean, we had almost 200 school administrators that we have taken out of Africa for this tour. So coming back, we now looked at what are the discoveries that we have made and what have we seen. One of the gaps that we saw was that our education is not relevant enough. Unfortunately, it's not relevant enough in the sense that we have almost 90–80% of graduates being jobless, not having job, not being able to cater for themselves, not being able to cater for their family members. That's not relevant. It has disappointed the needs. And we also saw that compared to all the countries that we have visited, compared to all the educational systems that we have understudied, we also discovered that our education is not functional enough, that our graduates are not having enough skills that could really make them to be competitive in today's world. Yes, they have certificates, but that is all. So having seen those needs, we came back and said, what are we going to do differently? We have been opportune, we have been privileged to see what operates the best practices in the educational landscape of these countries. We saw their labs, we saw their libraries, we saw their pedagogy, we saw their teachers teach, we related with the faculty, we related with the management team. They opened up all their doors to us. We saw the best of educational systems, and we felt there is something that can be done. That is how this campaign started, basically to make our educational systems in Africa to become more functional, to become more relevant. Yeah, I won't say we have gone too far. We have started. We actually started with policymakers in the private education subsector. What we did as soon as we returned from the tour was we gathered all the major stakeholders in Nigerian educational system from the private subsector. We gathered all of them together. I think we invited about 10 proprietors associations. We invited NABS, we invited RAFEC, that's Association for Middle Education Development. We invited Association of Model Islamic Schools. We invited League of Muslim proprietors, League of Proprietors of Muslim Schools. We invited Association of Christian Schools International. We invited all other education agencies, Deeper Life High Schools, Baptist Mission Schools, Redeemer Schools. We also went outside Nigeria. We invited the National Association of Proprietors of Private Schools from Ghana, from Liberia, from Sierra Leone in a mega summit in Nigeria. We did it about 6 times. We did 2 in Sheraton Hotel. We did 3 in Lee City University. And what we did was to make sure that the school owners and school administrators imbibe the best practices that will make our education more functional and more relevant. That is how far we have gone, and we still continue taking the campaign around the entire country. We hope to, in the next leg of the campaign, enter into public school sector, getting the policymakers to see what RAFEC is all about and how to make our educational system really functional and really relevant. That is how far we have gone. But then it is a growing venture. We just started, and I believe that in the next couple of months, in the next couple of years, we'll be able to cover the entire landscape of West Africa with this campaign. Honestly speaking, I will not say that. It is not functional. If we are going by the definition of what a functional and a relevant educational system should be, then our educational system, especially in Nigeria and many of the West African countries that I have practically visited, I won't say it is relevant and functional enough. And the reason is not far-fetched. We are saying that a relevant educational system aligns to the needs, local needs and global needs. What are the local needs? We need manpower. Manpower that will be able to fill the gap created by our organizations, our companies, our factories, and our institutions. Unfortunately, many employers of labor have been disappointed lately by the kind of graduates that we are producing that are not able to meet the manpower needs in terms of quality. So that's not functional enough. And we also talk about the needs globally, this crop of graduates that our educational system is producing are not meeting up. So I think we have a long way to go. We have seen a crop of schools that are doing well, that are benchmarking these best practices. But the truth of the matter is there are quite few, and the percentage is quite minimal. If we continue at this rate, I'm not sure that we're going to get there. I mean, in all of Nigeria, we have less than 5% of schools that are actually producing or that we will say are running really functional and relevant education by national and global standards. And so we are not there. But I believe that with RAFEC in place, we are just on the right track to getting there. My major concern is the fact that our graduates leave universities and they cannot get relevant and requisite jobs. It's a great concern to me. I know that unemployment is a major issue all over the world. There is no country in the world that doesn't have a trace of unemployment or the other. But that of Nigeria, that of Africa is alarming. It is mind-boggling. I mean, it is out of this world. When you are having over 90% of graduates that are being produced on annual basis not getting jobs. So you ask yourself, what is the need for this education? Imagine a child passing through 6 years in primary school, 6 years in secondary school. That is 12 years already. 4 or 5 years in university. That is 17 years. And then he has 1 year to do the 1 year compulsory scheme that federal government has for youths in the country. That makes it 18 years. And after 18 years, he is roaming the streets 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and has to go back to barbing, has to go back to bead making in order to survive, in order to make ends meet. And he cannot make up to $10 in a month, not up to $100. So you see, this is a great issue, and it's a concern to me as a person. And I feel like if we are having education that should cater for the needs of the society, with this number of unemployed graduates, we are nowhere to be found. I mean, it is a huge source of concern that the parents are getting frustrated. They train the students in school, and after they finish training them in school, they train them for masters, thinking with master's degree they're going to get the job of their dreams. With master's degree, many of them are still not getting anything, and then they are spending money to plan wedding for them, because many of these graduates cannot even get the funds to do wedding by themselves. And this same parent will be the one that will still do naming ceremony for the children. And if care is not taken, they will still be the one that will take care of the education of the grandchildren. This is not what anybody planned out for when education was introduced to Nigeria in 1850s, in 1860s, in 1870s. So we say it's a major concern for me that the graduates are getting frustrated. They are turning to Okada riders. They are turning to wheelbarrow boat drivers. They are turning to becoming security men and nannies outside the country. The parents are getting frustrated that they cannot get returns on investment after training the children. And the employers of labor are getting frustrated that the kind of manpower they are getting cannot deliver. So frustration everywhere. The whole society is getting frustrated. And it is resulting into a number of internet fraudsters, Yahoo, prostitutes on the street. And now youths are saying education is a scam because our uncles, our cousins, our aunties who have gone to school, they have got nothing to show for it. And someone goes into internet scam, 1, 2, 3 years is already riding the best car and building the best houses. This is a major concern to me. Education that is not relevant enough, education that is not functional enough to be able to arm our graduates with good jobs is definitely not the education of our dream. Like I've said, I've just shared my concern, and I think it's the concern of every well-meaning Nigerian, every well-meaning African who know how much unemployment is biting us in this country. And I'm sure that for everyone viewing me out there, there is no one in Nigeria that will not have a cousin, a nephew, a brother, a sibling, or a child that is going through what I'm talking about. When Dr. Mrs. Okonjo-Iweala was the Minister of Finance of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, she said 20% of Nigerians are being gainfully employed after passing through universities. But I think some years later, it was reduced to 10%. So if 10% of Nigerian graduates is getting employed, what happens to 90% of the youth corpers that we churn out every year? And there are millions, hundreds of thousands rather. So that I've said is my concern. But you see, that is still not my greatest concern. So I really appreciate the way you frame the question. The greatest concern is not just that they are unemployed. I think my greatest concern is that they're unemployable. That's the greatest concern. That we have unemployment is one issue, but that we have unemployability is the greatest issue, is the greatest concern. I have seen unemployment, I've done studies in unemployment statistics all over the world. But unemployability in this form that we found it in Africa is of gargantuan proportion, and it is frightening. I think it's my greatest concern. It is of greater concern to me than even the unemployment of the youths? Good question there. Unemployment is inability to get jobs. Unemployability is inability to fit into existing jobs. Unemployability is lack of requisite skills to be able to fit into job needs and to bridge job gaps. That is unemployability. So when you talk about unemployment, you are saying there are no jobs at all. But when you are talking of unemployability, you are saying there are jobs, but the graduates are not suitably qualified to meet up with the requirement of that job. That's unemployability. And to me, that is a greater concern. Okay, let me share this instance. We held a meeting. I led a delegation to meet director of Microsoft for all the 54 African countries and all the Middle East countries. The office is in Dubai. I led a number of school administrators, school owners, and educators to that meeting. We had a fantastic time. He shared with us some of the emerging trends in education. Some of us got us awed, some of them got us amazed. So we had a robust time talking about blockchain in education, talking about immersive education, talking about different current trends, emerging trends, evolving trends, and even future trends. And at the end of the day, it was time for interactive session. And he was asking us what are the challenges that we face in African educational system. The issue of unemployment came up. And he asked us then, are we really sure we had unemployment problem in Nigeria? And many of the administrators that I took for that meeting said, oh yeah, that's our greatest problem. And the director of Microsoft said, no, you don't have problem of unemployment, you have problem of unemployability. And he challenged us, as at that time, that there is vacancy for 1.3 million data scientists in the world. And that if we have anyone who has requisite requirements, skills in data science, we should just forward the CV to him. Within a month, he was going to fix up that person anywhere in the world with mouth-watering salaries and emoluments. All of us there, no single person had alumnus of a school or a cousin or a child, a daughter, a son that has what they are looking for in data science. So you discover that many of our students are studying courses that are no more in demand in the labor market. Majority of the courses that our universities are dishing out, they are not the courses that are trending in 21st century labor market. So when we say we have 100,000 graduates, we do not even, over 90% of them, 90,000 of those graduates, they are having certificates that the world does not need any longer. So all of us rub our body and we cannot give this man anyone with data science qualification as at that time. That is unemployability. Now, he sent a memo to head of Microsoft in Nigeria, and I facilitated another meeting with the head of Microsoft in Nigeria as at that time. He gathered some of the school executives from leading schools in Nigeria, and we had a meeting with him. And he was telling us that he did a recruitment shortly before that time, and he had 2,000 applications from Nigerian graduates. Majority of them, all of them, they had second class or and above. And he said they conducted a recruitment test and none of them, not a single one, passed. The question is, how would, out of 2,000, not a single one will pass? This is many years ago. The basic competencies are not there. The basic skills are not there, though the certificates are there. So this is unemployability at its core. And that is why you see many of our graduates that travel out in Jakarta syndrome, they end up becoming nannies, they end up becoming security guys, they end up working in factories, even with their masters, because they do not have what the employers of labor are looking out for. That is unemployability, and that is the major difference. There is unemployment, no doubt about that. I'm not contending with the fact that there is unemployment, but unemployability is our greater problem, and it's a greater vice. I think the major cause of unemployability is ignorance, is lack of knowledge, is the fact that many operators of education in our climb do not know what it takes to really get the 21st century jobs. I mean, there are things that we ought to know right from primary schools that our students don't know. There are exposures that our students ought to have gotten right from secondary school that will have prepared them for employability, which they do not have. So when they got to university, we were taught the YDS, we were taught theories, we were taught postulations, but we were not armed with necessary skills that we need to be able to compete and become globally competitive out there. So I think it is that ignorance, that knowledge deficit in the way our curriculum is structured that make our graduates to become lame when they get to the labor market. That's just the major. And you see, I don't blame the students too much. I blame the proprietors of private schools. I blame the teachers of private schools. I blame the head teachers and principals of public schools. I blame the government agencies who have failed woefully in making these students to be armed with what they will need the most when they get to the labor market. Thank you, and I think this is just the crux of the matter. In employability studies, which we are trying to bring in at RAFEC we are creating a course which we call Employability and Future Ready Education. It comprises studies on what can be done for African graduates to land job with Huawei, to land job with E&Y, to land job with Thermocool, with Oracle, with Tesla, with IBM, with Dell, to land job with P&G. This is what we refer to as employability and future ready education. It is, and what does it comprise? It comprises 7 requirements that a graduate should have before he will be future ready, before he will be ready for future of the job and job of the future. 7 requirements. Unfortunately, out of these 7 requirements that all the advanced educational systems of the world prepare their students for, Nigeria and many African countries are concentrating on only one. Number 1 is certificate. Number 2 is certifications. Number 3, competencies. Number 4, hard skills. Number 5, soft skills. Number 6, 21st century skills. And number 7, relevant vocational skills. There is no way a graduate will be armed with these 7 requirements and will not be employable. Unfortunately, our educational system is so skewed and flawed so much that we concentrate only on number 1, which is certificate. Even the certificate is divided into 2. The local certificate and the international certificate. And we discover in Nigeria, we concentrate only even on the local certificate. So when I take my child to school, for instance, from primary 1 to SS3, what he has to bring out is only WAEC and NECO certificates. Maybe with JAMB, and that will be all. And then he goes to university to come up with BSc or BA. That is not enough to actually become globally competitive. So in these employability studies, we now look at the remaining 6. Of course, we start with even number 1. Are there international certificate that the students should have before they go to university that will help them to even secure admission and scholarships into highly rated Ivy League universities out there? And now, having talked about certificates, we talk about certifications. Certifications are in 3 categories. We have IT-related certifications, tech-related certifications. We have non-IT certifications, non-tech related certifications. Then we have industry-relevant certifications. On a good day, every graduate is supposed to have at least 2 or 3 from each of these categories. It is only in this part of the world that our students finish university 17 years and the only thing they have is BSc. No single certification from IT related or tech related. No single certification from non-tech related. No single certification from industry relevant certifications. Number 3, competencies. We have 7 competencies that graduates should know and have. You see, when we were talking about the Microsoft director, we talked about the other time and the head of Microsoft in Nigeria. He said basic Microsoft competence, many of them do not even have. Imagine going through secondary school, graduating from secondary school, you cannot handle Microsoft Office Word, you cannot handle Excel, you cannot handle PowerPoint, you cannot handle database. That education is not relevant, it's not functional. Multilingual competence. In developed countries of the world, apart from the language of instruction, you should have minimum of 2 other foreign and international languages before you graduate from secondary school. We don't have any of such here. Even the one we do in French is too academic. Now, so I've talked about certificate, I've talked about certification, I've talked about competencies. And we have 7 of those competencies. And then we have the hard skills. We have about 50 hard skills, which we are saying, okay, let's focus on 10 hard skills out of the 50 and see whether our graduates can have 2 or 3 out of them. We have soft skills, about 50 of them. Hard skills will open door to get a job. Soft skills will help the graduate to retain the job. And now we have the 21st century skills and we have the relevant vocational skills. Even in phone repairs, electrical installations, trade certifications, even plumbing, carpentry, and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, all that we have in this part of the world is just certificates, local certificates alone. At the end of the day, we now come out and our graduates say they are competing with jobs. We've graduates from Canada, we've graduates from Sri Lanka, from Singapore, from China. The chances are too slim. And that is why it seems as if some employers of labor are discriminatory. When someone travels abroad and he comes back, they place him over Nigerian graduate because they know what he's bringing beyond the certificate alone. So that is what can be done. Get this knowledge to not just university graduates, secondary school students, not just secondary school students, primary school students. Let us do a total overhaul, a rejig of our curriculum and make it relevant and make it functional. If we can build this from primary school, which we're already doing, we have started a pilot project and we are not doing badly. Well, just like I've said, number 1 thing is to rejig our curriculum. Integrate these 7 requirements into our curriculum right from primary school to tertiary institution. I discovered that some state governments and even Federal Ministry of Education is making moves towards this end, and that's commendable. But it is not holistic enough. Because just bringing plumbing, hairdressing, and catering into school curriculum is not enough. This is just number 7. So what happens to number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6? So we actually need to sit down and holistically, strategically, and intelligently draw out a roadmap that will begin right from primary school. And the pilot project we are starting with about 200 schools across 20 states of the Federation and the FCT. We had our first meeting in one of the popular resort centers in southwestern Nigeria early this year. We're having another follow-up by August this year. We are working with these 200 schools as pilot project, bringing this in. We have a school which we call TSC Hub. It is a disruptive school because what we are doing there is totally disruptive and tangential to what we know to be the normal educational package. This TSC Hub is a training, skills, and certification hub. It is a very holistic hub. It encompasses virtually everything about certification. When I say virtually everything, I mean virtually everything. Then skills, the hard skills, the soft skills, and then all the requisite training that students need. And it is open. Currently, we are admitting students that have graduated from secondary school. We start a bridge year program. This bridge year program is, okay, this is what Nigerian educational system has given you. from primary 1 to SS3. Okay, so we say come to TSC or before you go to university. So it's a bridge year, 6 to 9 months. So within these 6 to 9 months, we correct the deficit, the knowledge deficit of employability. We correct it within 6 to 9 months. And after that, we release the student to go to university. And we continue to follow them up until they get to required level that would make them employable. So this is what we do at TSC Up. We say, when you come here, we look at your certificate. What have you got? Oh, you've got WIC, you've got NECO. How about SAT? How about IELTS? How about TOEFL? How about TEFL? You know, there's a difference between TOEFL and TEFL and TESOL. So we bring all of this to TSC. When a child is coming from SS3 to TSC Up, for his employability studies, you take these courses, the ones that we find relevant, either TESOL, TEFL, TOEFL, IELTS, SAT, and then A levels. But we don't stop there. We now go to certifications, and we say, take a certification in cybersecurity, take a certification in ethical hacking, take a certification in data science, take a certification in data analysis, take a certification in robotics, take a certification in artificial intelligence. And then we look at non-tech related certifications. Take a certification in human resources. Interestingly, there is no organization that does not have human resource department. Unfortunately, less than 10% of universities in Nigeria is offering human resource management as a course. I mean, just look at the irony, the paradox. A course that is needed by every organization is a course that many Nigerian universities are not offering. So, take a certification in human resource management, take a certification in project management, take a certification in occupational therapy, take a certification in caregiving, take a certification in HSE. And then we talk about hard skills. In TSC, we have our syllabus for all the hard skills: website development, coding, machine learning, up to video editing, photography. You have it. And then we now say for competencies, come and take a certification course in French language, in Chinese language, in Arabic language, in German language. We have all of this at TSC Up. So, and when we are done with that, we take everyone through entrepreneurial competence, and then we move to the soft skills. At the end of the day, 6 to 9 months, you have at least 1 or 2 international languages, you have at least 2 or 3 art skills, you have at least 2 or 3 certifications, and we say go to university. And for the pilot project we have done, some of the students that have passed through these employability studies, even right from university, they have become employable before they graduated at all. This is the way forward for Africa. If we're going to break the poverty jinx, and we're going to break this terrible unemployability crisis that have made our youth to turn to social vices and deviant behaviors as a scapegoat from poverty. That is the practical solution. And we know that our TSC Up cannot accommodate the millions and tens of millions of youths in Nigeria and in African countries. And that is why we are saying, let government imbibe this. Let private sector imbibe this. We are available. With the education we have gotten over the years, with the experience we have got in this field, with the exposure we have got across different nations of the world, I think we are poised to rewrite the history of Nigerian educational curriculum by making it more practical, by making it more hands-on, by making it more relevant, by making it more functional through relevant courses, certificates, certifications, competencies, hard skills, soft skills, 21st century skills, and relevant vocational training skills. And I'm sure that as we embark on this project, which is under the broad umbrella of relevant and functional education campaign, we are going to have a different song to sing in the next couple of years. We are open to partnerships. with many government agencies and non-government agencies as well. We are coming with our load of experience in this respect, and with our international collaborations towards ensuring that this is onboarded in every state in Nigeria, in every local government in Nigeria. We want to take this to doorstep of every school, every primary school, every secondary school, every tertiary institution, and in all African countries, God helping us. Thank you for having me too.